Hello everyone, today we'll be doing a reaction video of Fareed Zakaria. He made some controversial statements about Africa. We'll watch the video and then we debunk what he said. Let's take a look at what this guy said.
China's influence in Africa.
Ooh. It's very real because they've provided a lot of assistance. They've built a lot of the infrastructure. But in my experience traveling in Africa, the Africans they like America a lot more, because I'll tell you one program, George Bush, to give him credit, George W. Bush, PEPFAR. This is the AIDS prevention program. Mm-hmm. It probably has saved tens and tens and tens of millions of lives in Africa. Wow. Africa was being ravaged by AIDS, and the Bush administration went in with a huge program that, again, small on our budget. You're talking about, probably 0.25% of the federal budget. And it has saved, tens and tens of millions of people's lives, and people know it, and people talk about it. When the Chinese come in, they build something, but they're like, and here's what we want in return. There's a much more of a transaction. There's a quid pro quo.
Isn't that how their batteries are so advanced? They control the cobalt mines in Africa?
It's not why they're so advanced, because they got that raw material, but we could get the raw material. No, they've invested in it, and they're very innovative. They're not just copying.
But they do have the cobalt mines, which is apparently the worst slavery conditions in human history.
Yeah, getting the raw material is only one part. The challenge with batteries is basically we've not found a way to...
Wow, that was crazy. Well, before we even get to look at what this guy said or debunk what he said, let's see, who is Fareed Zakaria? Let's take a moment to understand the man, then we can maybe know where he's coming from, or maybe have some critics to say much about him. So, Fareed Zakaria, from what I could get online, he was born in 1964 in Mumbai, India, into a political family. It says his father is a politician, his mother is a journalist. He himself is a journalist. He studied at Yale University and a PhD in Harvard. And now he works for CNN. So he is a journalist working for CNN. And throughout his travel to Africa, the only thing he can associate Africa with is AIDS. And also, he says he's known for his U.S.-centered view of global affairs. He often defends the U.S. foreign policies and critiques rivalries like China and Russia. So we know where that mindset is coming from. So let's keep that in mind when we're talking about what he just said about Africa, right? Let's just keep that. So he's someone who always criticizes anybody that is a rival to the U.S. He favors the U.S., which is good because he's American from what I can see, but born in India. That's where his roots are coming from. And he criticizes China and Russia. For whatever reason, I don't know. I didn't dig into that. Now, here's a kicker about Zakaria. He chose HIV to symbolize U.S.-African relationship. Why HIV? Why not highlight African booming tech startups that meta startups that have come to Africa from the U.S.? Why associate Africa with HIV, with AIDS? That's something I've never understood, because when you associate Africa with anything degrading, that's how people start looking at us as if we're just people that have AIDS. To be sincere. Also, his birthplace, India. He was born in India. But when he's talking about India, he does not associate India with HIV. But India has over 2 million people living with HIV. Why does he associate India with AIDS, but he has to associate Africa with AIDS? According to the UN AIDS, India as of right now has 2 million people living with HIV. India is a country, Africa is a continent. For 2 million people to be living with HIV in India, you should be associating them also with HIV. But you don't do that. But you decide to take a whole continent, Africa, to associate them with HIV. And I know it brings reinformation about HIV started in Africa, the stereotype about Africa. This is reinforcing old and tired stereotypes about Africa. People associating Africa with diseases, poverty, crisis. It ignores the continent's vast diversity. It knows our achievements. Now let's look at where did HIV come from? Where did AIDS come from? You will know if you go online, they'll say AIDS comes from monkeys. The monkeys were found in Central Africa. Can they show me a monkey that died of HIV? Things that the West have gone in the lab and they have cooked it up. They decide to say, no, it comes from all monkeys in the central part of Africa, which is just a whole lot of BS. Can they bring us the monkeys that died of AIDS? Since AIDS has been running all over, we've seen a lot of humans that have died from HIV. And we know we're genetically related to monkeys. Can we see monkeys also that have died of HIV? Yes, we saw monkeys dying of Ebola. Can they bring us the monkeys that have died of HIV so that we can say, this is really true? AIDS came from these monkeys. How did they get the AIDS? We eat bushmeat, that's how we got HIV. From what I know, eating bushmeat is not a criteria to get HIV because we cook our food. We don't eat medium rare. The Americans eat medium rare. We cook meat till it's ready and soft. It means even if the monkeys had it, we would have killed all the HIV virus. But no, that narrative still stands. It's a misinformation campaign that keeps on coming over and over and over. People associating Africa with poverty, with crisis, with conflicts. And a recent time, an educated person, a Harvard-studied human being, who associated Africa with HIV, whereas he was born in India. I guess if I should make a statement also that India and curry, he's going to be okay with that. But I find that a degrading statement. That's not something I can make. But he's so comfortable sitting in that chair, talking to those guys. And let's not forget how agencies like the FBI and CIA have the history of stirring troubles abroad, sometimes weaponizing diseases and misinformation to stabilize regions and maintain control. Can you remember when COVID started? Oh, it's a China thing. People started beating up Chinese left and right. No, COVID started with money funded by the US. Just that the lab was found in China, if we have to go by that version. But there's another version that started in the US. If we're going to talk about diseases' origin, let's do it honestly, without shaming Africa or blaming nature, where the truth of it is political and painful one. Zakaria praises George W. Bush's PEPFAR as a shining example of U.S. generosity in Africa. Yes, since 2023, over 110 billion has been allocated fighting HIV globally. But here's the truth, that money never gets into the hands of Africans or the communities that they claim they helped. Estimates suggest that only 20 to 30% actually reaches the people. And when it reaches the people, it is in the form of condoms, in the form of HIV treatments, which is good, but it doesn't really help the people, or in the form of therapy. Much where US-based controllers, NGOs, administrative costs, some was waste. Some people even stole the money. We know about the US aid now. They're battling their problem. That aid did not even come to help us. It hasn't helped us. For one, I believe that America shouldn't give aid to Africa. I believe that America should come and negotiate with each African country. If they want resources, there should be a form of negotiation. Don't give us your money. We're not beggars. Who created HIV? They should solve the problem. Now let's look at what China is doing in Africa. Building roads, railways, power plants, infrastructure, zones, helping business people. China is doing direct contact with people in Africa. The African people use that road. Where is the road that America has built for Africa? Where are the industries that America has built for Africa? You give us aid that circles around in Washington. You people squander the money in Washington. Africa don't want to be associated with HIV. It didn't come from any monkey in Central Africa. China is building railways in Kenya, industrial parks in Ethiopia, highway power plants in Angola and Nigeria. Those things help Africans, not condoms. These are projects that you can see. And then you see an educated Harvard individual associating Africa with HIV, Africa-US relationship with HIV, and discredit China, which has done more, and say they want control. What control? So China inflicts its control, then we'll say, yes, China is inflicting control. But as for now, they are the better partner. At the end of the day, no Chinese person has colonized an African country, because colonization for me is the worst thing that ever happened to Africa. From slavery to colonization, in short, the first European that stepped its foot on that continent is the worst thing that ever happened to the continent. US aid is really not needed. Give that money, build us a research lab. Let us know how to create vaccines. Don't give us condoms. We don't want condoms. China invests in the people. Yes, they have their flaws. I'm not saying Chinese are the best or whatever. But comparing China and the US with the help they have given, no, you can't. And as you say it in Africa with HIV, AIDS is disgusting. Especially coming from an Indian-born, Harvard-studied American. So when Zakaria paints this picture, it's selective. He ignores Africans' agenda, India's own HIV story, and uses AIDS as a defining narrative of US-African relationship. This is so tiredful. It's so harmful. It's a stereotype that we don't want it anymore. It's disgusting. If we are comparing, the fact shows, yes, the American aid helped lives. It saved some lives in Africa. I will not refuse that. It saved lives in Africa. But China is building Africa's future. China is a better partner as of now for all African countries than America ever was. So if America wants to step up, let America step up. And you, Ogasa, please, we don't want discrimination, because I know with your Indian background, I know a lot of things that I can associate you too. But I will not do it because I'm not hateful. But never do you associate Africa and HIV. We didn't create that virus. It didn't come from Africa. It shouldn't be associated with Africa. And everybody, if you like my channel, please subscribe. I'm having a lot of views lately, but no subscription. Subscription helps me grow this channel to something bigger and better, which is my vision, which is what I want to do. So please subscribe, click the notification button, and stay tuned for more interesting and update stories about our beautiful continent, Africa. Thank you.